right, so look at number one there. And now you got to remember, mom and dad are sitting at the table across from you. They may be on a Zoom call. It's more effective, I think, eyeball to eyeball. But you're just going to, and here's what you say to them. You do not have to answer these questions, but I'm going to be a better advisor if I understand these health situations that we're about to discuss. I'll say, will that be okay? I want to get their permission. Oh, I'm getting chased back to the podium. Okay. I'm back. Okay, so, but I want to get their permission to answer these questions because I'm getting ready to dive real deep into their personal life, real deep, and they've never had the opportunity to have this conversation with each other. It's a conversation the healthy one wants to have with the unhealthy one. Promise you. Sometimes you'll run into two healthy people that say no to everything. But look at it. In the past 12 months, have you been treated for internal cancer, malignant melanoma, leukemia, Alzheimer's disease, or had an organ transplant, heart attack or heart surgery, stroke, aneurysm, or kidney dialysis? When they say yes, ask them to tell you about it. Because now you know, if life insurance is even an option. So you're not going to make a diagnosis that you can't write a prescription for. Look at question 2. Have you been treated and tested positive for acquired immune deficiency syndrome or human that big word virus? There are a lot of same-sex relationships in the world today. And sometimes those relationships need estate planning more than anybody else that you might know for a moment, because not everybody agrees with the relationship that's in their family or in their life. Okay, and sometimes without a proper estate plan, if one of those folks winds up in the hospital, they could wind up in a conflict with the family. So two people who love each other need to say, this is what we want. This is what we're going to do. This is who we want to be in charge. And that's a wide open market. And there's a lot of money in those relationships, a lot. Number 3, have you had any problem getting life or health insurance in the past? Let them tell you. We have a lot of products that don't require medical underwriting, right? On the income side. A lot of them. And although they might have a health problem, they might have the ability to properly fund it still. Okay. Look at the next one. Have you been hospitalized during the last 5 years? That's a big question because sometimes, I know the people with heart problem, they go into the hospital and they come out, and they go into the hospital and they come out, and then they go into the hospital and they come out, and then they go into the hospital and don't come out. And usually the heart problems aren't long-term care issues. But then other people, like my friend Johnny, had a stroke 15 years ago, and he lived in a wheelchair for 15 years and got worse and worse and worse and worse before he died. And his wife is healthy. So we, all the time that we did, we found out that he had a New York Life policy that I had sold him years ago. And it was a universal life policy. And in today's markets, not many companies will let you convert their universal life policies to whole life policies. But that old New York Life policy that he bought from me was convertible to whole life. And we ran the numbers and realized that if he switched that universal life to whole life, he wound up with more cash, more death benefit and everything, even though he was paralyzed over half his body. We paid that death claim about 2 weeks ago. But we always had to plan for what happens to Judy when John is not around. That was always the big thing. And then one day Judy had a health problem. And when we looked at it, she looked at me and she said, Randy, we've already planned for all this, haven't we? And I said, yeah. Okay. So anyway, have you ever been treated, number 5, have you ever been treated for cancer, kidney disease, diabetes, leukemia, multiple sclerosis, paralysis, fainting, chest pains, angina, disease of the heart or blood vessels, lung or liver disease, emphysema, bronchitis, stroke, high blood pressure, mental nervous disorder, or drug or alcohol abuse? Okay. Why would you write a prescription if you know that it's going to be an issue when it goes through underwriting without warning them in advance? If you want to lose a client, don't warn them about something like that. Okay, so then the next thing, are you taking any medication or receiving any medical treatments? Then you can ask the question, have you smoked in the past 12 months? And then you might ask them about their Medicare. Now all of a sudden you've done the estate plan. Now you have access to the information about their current Medicare plan.
And it's all under a non-threatening conversation, so they don't feel like you're selling them.
Right. You're just talking. Hey, I'm a better advisor if I have this information. That's all. So anyway, then you put their health history down there and you put their Medicare supplier information down there. Fill it out. Because again, that's what I'm going to look at, and I'm going to go, hey, Mike, you're a little closer to the cliff than Angie is, aren't you? And once you get that acknowledgement, you've just made a big step toward the proper funding or the proper diagnosis and the proper prescription.
You have the conversation for that.
Yeah. Hey, listen, they appreciate it because they didn't know how to have that conversation. And now all of a sudden they're having it right in front. Yeah. One thing I really like about my process that I know makes me giggle sometimes is when they ignore me and start talking to each other. I just sit back and listen. A couple who's already made all the micro commitments and they're totally involved will turn around to each other and start talking, just like you're not even there. And if you just listen, they'll tell you what product they need to solve that problem. I promise you, they'll tell you every time. They won't know they're telling you, but if you just listen, you'll hear what's going on. And you can say, now I can probably make the proper diagnosis. I think we need to have the proper paperwork, don't you? And when you come in to pick up your proper paperwork, I'm going to do some research and I'm going to run some numbers. When you come back in, would you like to see your numbers that apply to the topic that you just had? They're going to say yes. Does that make sense? That's why I say it's a process and not a product. Any other questions about the health questions? All right. So now I want to introduce you to the income cell a little bit, just briefly. What time is it? 11:30. 11:30. I'll be doing. We're around scared. First thing I want you to know is what, Mike, you want to take over here?
Well, I'm saying, you want to show something different?
Just an introduction. I don't want you to take too deep a dive yet. We're going to take a deep dive after lunch.
Yeah, okay. So you don't want to change anything else?
No, I'm fine right now. It's hard to be technically crippled.
Yeah.
It's all right. Okay, so the reason I like to concentrate on the income cell is because it'll change your life economically, and it'll change their life economically in a positive way. They were not aware that you can solve that problem for them, and they're going to listen to what you have to say. That's the perfect environment for where you want to be. When I watch you and what's the little girl's name that's your wife in the illustrations?
So
what's the little girl's name that's your wife in the illustrations? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. When they come in, they make presentations about when they're talking about their income, but every time when they get up in front of Mike and do the demo, if you listen to what they do, it's because there's been some pillow talk going on. You know, he's made a presentation, he brought him back into the second interview, and they discussed it. Okay. Well, the biggest fear that the elderly have is that they're going to run out of income. Okay. You need to get them to acknowledge that. And then you need to get them to talk about what their plans were to solve that. Sometimes they're just so content with the money they have in the market that they don't think they have a problem. Until what? Until the cliff happens and their expenses go up and their income stays the same. Then all of a sudden they're draining assets. And if the market goes down at the same time they get sick and they're draining assets at the same time the market is losing value, that could be a real problem to the survivor.
Now, somebody who already told us no, like I'm thinking about Jim Brown.
Okay.
I can remember him.
Yeah.
Parkinson.
Yeah.
You know, he said, no, can't we go back in?
Yes, we can go back and we can go back and show them again. Okay.
He's getting really sick, and his wife's going to be left behind, and she doesn't like making any of it.
Okay. Yeah. You know, and see, when I told you about the other sale that I made, it took, about 18 months for them to realize that what I said was true. And everybody's not going to believe you in the first, if they don't know you. You know, they're probably not going to be sold on it. But if you go in and make the proper diagnosis and let the proper time go by, they're going to see that you were doing nothing but telling them the truth. And your prestige or what they think about you is going to do nothing but go up. And if you stay in touch with them at least once a year, they will start appreciating what you say.
It also develops trust.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You Medicare people, man, have those conversations. You'll pick up all their friends in the neighborhood. Okay. All right. So if real quick, I'm going to talk to you about different products that you can use in the long-term care arena. And Mike, you might have to help me on here because I think right now is the number one product, the One America.
Yeah.
And it is a life insurance policy with second to die life insurance policy with long-term care monthly benefits attached to it. Is that right?
I guess I'm not real smart. Tell me, I mean, I know conceptually in a way what it means, but I feel like I couldn't say it out loud. What does the second to die mean?
Okay. All right, Mike. Heather wants to know what second to die means.
That means if you have a husband and wife, the husband dies, the death pay out. So when the second person dies, wife pays out.
Now, why would that be more beneficial than a first to die?
Well, because because we're doing a joint long-term care policy. So if the first person dies, then the death pays out, leaving no long-term care for the seniors.
They're fund. They have access to the death benefit or long-term care.
Does it not reimburse the estate for the costs of the policy? If you take some of your assets and you buy that benefit and it's the second die, are you not reimbursing the estate for the money that you spent?
Absolutely. So let's just say, for example, I spent one this morning, $300,000. It could end up being like a $334,000 death benefit. If they never use it, they peacefully pass away in their sleep. They might die of a heart attack, never use it. Instead of now $334,000 goes to the beneficiaries once the second person dies. But if they do need long-term care and they get sick and they go into assisted living, nursing home, at-home care, they actually have up to $10,000 a month available actually. Unlimited.
And if not, have you not protected the heirs?
So would you recommend a more life insurance policy for the the first person that passes, because that's been an issue as well. If it's a second, what happens when this guy passes? I gotta bury this one and handle all of the final expenses. Where do we take that money from? Or do we put a different policy?
Sorry, you
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't interrupt.
no, sorry, what was the first one then?
Okay, so if we're presenting a second guideline with long-term care. What about the first pass? How are those final expenses handled? Do you put that with another small insurance policy? To
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't say you did. I know people from this one.
Typically, yeah, we're not using all the money in this long-term care policy, so they have plenty of money to, do fund expenses and all that. This is just to cover the additional long-term care costs after they're deductible later, what is your guaranteed income rate, what you want, that gap. The next step is what is your LTC gap?
Right. And
Right,
that's
and
what's
so-
called asset protection,
That's the base long-term.
asset based on care. Okay, that's what we were presenting, but I presented it wrong because I thought it was a version of that.
Sorry?
Yeah, so I'll have to be.
Well, and I didn't catch it either. I didn't catch it
Yeah,
either.
I have
Okay,
to
so,
that. That's why I was asking, because I was.
and that's why my motto is a failure will make a few. You just have to learn our products.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
so, okay, so that's one product. But another product, there's a lot of life insurance policies out there that pay 2% of the death benefit monthly. Is that MoneyGuard?
MoneyGuard is one of the, there's, so One America is used a lot because they're the only one that's allowed. Getting ahead of ourselves this afternoon, but they're the only ones that allow qualified funds to be used, which America is qualified rich. And so, but nationwide, Carrion, One America, Global Atlantic, other ones you can do non-qualified money and do it similar time.
So what if they have a life insurance policy that pays 2% of the death benefit each month? You can take that and apply it to add it to their Social Security, and it still might not be enough to pay for their long-term care expenses. So they might need, although they have their Social Security and another life product, you may tack on the backside another product, which might be an annuity income product, or another life insurance policy that completes that. But are you following me? If you do a true assessment of what they're doing on their long-term care, and they see where the hole is, if it really means something to them, and you present the right solution to that part that's missing, you're going to get a good sale. Okay, but you have to understand that's where you may have to take a deep dive into their long-term care plans. That's why. But when you first introduce it, you just want to say, "Tell me about your long-term care plans," and they'll tell you. But don't try to sell them anything. Just let them, because you have to gather enough information that gives you the data that you need to go back in and make the proper prescription to solve the problem. Okay, that's why you don't push in the first interview when they talk to you about the long-term care.
Yeah.
You don't pitch. That's right. Don't pitch. Analyze, diagnose, prescribe, coma. Okay. So there's a lot of different options out there for long-term care through life insurance. There's a lot of options out there to annuity contracts. Okay. Can you go ahead and just explain real quick the difference between a contract with a well-being benefit and one without a well-being benefit?
Yeah, so essentially, the well-being benefit on there depends on the contract. The different ones, different carriers do differently, but let's just say that they're getting $2,000 a month as their income payment. Well, as long as there's a cash value for them, there's still money in the account, that payment can either double to $4,000 a month, or sometimes joint income increases to $3,000 a month for up to 5 years or until the contract value of that. And so it's just an added benefit where if somebody gets sick, they can get an extra payment on their monthly benefit for a period of time to help people out. top their rate of income tax. And there's a bunch of them where it's only due 680 hours, so it's just a doctor's note, and then that payment goes up. There are a few of them just you can find your nursing home or like a quality care facility.
And in a lot of cases, you don't have to be confined.
And claims process is simple, because I have a lot of people, I know I've gotten marketing material about it, but I just know that there's a lot of people that tell me that when they go to approve of their long-term care insurance, whatever the issues are, the insurance company can come back with, no, we need this document still don't know, it's just the doctor. Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, when you use the income riders on the annuity contracts, it's just like Mike said, you know, there's no medical underwriting. There's no after medical underwriting. They're just, the doctor says you can't do these two activities and you can stay home, get that care. And that's what most people say they want anyway. Although I'm a firm believer that at some point you can't stay home because your spouse can't take care of you. Okay. So question?
Yeah, would you recommend, if someone had long-term care, a long-term care policy, would you recommend income go?
If they already have a long-term care policy, depends on what the long-term care gap is. You know, it could be a good way to supplement the long-term care policy they already have.
Not all long-term care policies are built the same.
Yeah.
Some pay for 2 years. Some have a bucket, some don't. Some pay for life. Okay. Do you have a question? Okay. You know, so you know, they have to bring that in and let you look at it. They don't understand it. Once you look at them and explain what they have bought, they will be open to what you say to fix the problem that they might have. Okay. So, you know, when we're talking about the long-term care products, there's such a variety out there. You know, for you to make a proper diagnosis, you have to have all the information. Okay. But just start out with, just get a ballpark. Just get a ballpark and say, okay, we need to talk about your long-term care. Let's be sure we bring that information in. You might have 3 or 4 different interviews and fund each problem each different time, but they have to decide, are they going to fund it with their IRA? They're going to fund it with money that they have in the bank? Are they going to fund it with a life insurance policy? And some people will say, yes, I have long-term care, but when you analyze it, they have inferior long-term care that doesn't protect their assets and leaves the healthy spouse exposed. Okay, so you know, Mike, if somebody has a $5,000 care, is it possible to underwrite their regular care at $2,500 and give them the doubler to lower the amount of money that they have to invest? Does everybody understand what I just said?
No, so that again.
Okay.
I got a quick question.
Go ahead.
I have thought to have additional long-term care policy. For anything that they can do to switch or replace or anything like that.
We just said it. Well, I would say that, Charlie. I would say get a copy of that LTC policy, send it to me, and I can run it past our long-term care experts. We can see what happens. It really comes down to just gathering that.
We have to use our experts.
Several years ago, before I was knowledgeable and now about it, they had asked me, somebody else approached them. I was doing something other work for them, and they had asked me, said, do you think that's a good idea? And I said, sure. You guys have you have quite a bit of assets. So it would probably make sense on your part to have some coverage.
Okay.
And so looking back on it now, I know what I'm doing now, I would probably say we need to take a deeper look at that. You know, because I've had other clients. I had a new lady who just passed away this past October, and she was a tax client. And she had been paying for years on very long-term care policy, and then Jim work came back, and of course, she caused a lawsuit. Everybody knows about that. That they offered her basically buy the policy out. She would no longer have to make premium payments anymore, but she would have a limited amount of coverage. And before she even got to make a choice, she had asked me what choice I would make, and she had like 5 choices. And I said, well, first of all, do you want to pay more premium? She said, no. I said, well, you don't have 2 choices. And I said, you pick between the 2, which you feel best for yourself. We'll discuss that with your daughter, because that's what I think you should do. Either one of these is going to be fine. One of them had a little bit of a rebate. You're going to get a little bit of money back, still have a small amount of coverage. The other one was, she just basically paid no more premiums, and they kept it basically at 2 or 3 years or whatever it was, right? And so, unfortunately, though, she got sick right in the midst of trying to make a decision, was getting out of the hospital with rehabilitation center. She eventually passed away. So I think her daughter said to go back and do rehab costs. They're still the office. So
That's a perfect opportunity when Genworth comes in and says that, for you to go back in and say, okay, are you protecting your assets? Do you have any other benefits? Do we need to take a cash, some of your cash and do an annuity contract that supplements that? Build around the problem. Just build around it. And
for me was, to be honest, I wasn't knowledgeable of anything now. I don't have resources that I didn't have the resources to find.
Okay.
Right.
So I'm a firm believer that you do have the resources now. Yeah. So the answer is, let me do the research and let me run some numbers. Would you like to come back in and look at those numbers? Everything that I do has got the same answer. Yes, sir.
Well, now getting back to that question, I think you were talking about a $5,000 gap.
Okay.
To cover that with Delaware. I mean, you need a $5,000 benefit for long-term care.
So selling a $2,500 benefit with a well-being rider on it.
Or
That'll lower the number of money that they have to put in. It's not perfect. Okay. But remember, it's either all of it, none of it, or some of it. Okay. And if all of it is a problem, solve it by showing them some of it and adding that rider to it.
that'll double for 2 or 3 years.
5.
So it depends on the contract.
Yeah.
Some of them will double for up to 5 years as long as the contract ends. Some of them will go longer than 5 years, still have some money in the contract. So it really depends on it.
Oh, and I have a question.
I'm saying the nursing home is less than
For males, 2 years, for females, 2 years. Yeah.
How can there, like, I'm sure there's a way, but what are some examples of ways we can not get contract value when they could use it?
Because let's just say they put in, I'm just gonna make up a fictitious number, they put in $200,000 and they get on $2,000 a month, but it doubles. So that's $48,000 a year, right? That basically has been down in 4 years.
Okay, so it's obviously it's not, it's just once the money's gone, then the dollar stops.
Then the number stops, but it goes back to the original payment, still the rest of them.
Okay.
But you also know that if you've asked the health questions,
Yeah.
you also can probably say, according to this health situation, that might solve the problem because you won't live much longer. But you have to know what the health questions say.
I mean, based on the health questions, we can determine it. Sometimes just an income doubler is the best they can do. But there's also other products that even if they don't have to be perfectly healthy, but they can still get some other good products that are either better than doublers if they, as long as they, that's healthy.
So
We can talk about that sentiment about the life insurance that that doesn't have to be underwritten.
We will have to do there some. Yeah.
okay, so are there any questions about income?
Oh, so one other thing with your, I guess it was a fictitious They said $2,500 gap. Right, so you said write a $2,500.
income and put the well-being doubler on it.
So am I right in thinking that would, to get $2,500, they'd need about?
Be about 500.
That's all I want to make sure that I computed for myself. Thank you.
It's close to 500,000. That's a $35,000 commission.
Right.
And one that they will thank you.
It's very previous thing.
Question.
Okay, you don't have lump sum of money.
Uh-huh.
You may be able to, buy life insurance that has long-term care rider on it easier than a long-term care policies are. Well,
Sometimes you want to create an estate instead of preserving one. So, sometimes that's where the life insurance comes in if it'll work. Okay. The other thing is if mom has an IRA and her husband is sick, how would she use her IRA? What would be the benefits if they use an income rider on her IRA?
Well, you could do joint income. And some of them, even with joint income, you can still double.
You're talking about moving money from the IRA to.
Across the street.
Across the street. I mean, if the husband's already sick, then maybe some of the other aspects of long-term care might not work, but you can still do an income rider that has guaranteed income for both of them. But if you double off of him being sick, and then when he passes away, it is the fact that original payment across early.
So if we have wealth and insurability issues, it's still solvable.
When you said some people have to build, I think you said something like some people have to build an estate, other people have to create an estate, or create an estate versus build an estate. How would we create an estate?
With life insurance policy. Okay, so when young people have to create an estate because they don't have their assets built up. Okay, but sometimes if tax law comes in, we had to preserve an estate. We'll use a life insurance policy. When they're younger, you create an estate with a life insurance policy. As they get older, you're preserving one. Okay, so you shouldn't have to know everything. All you have to know is how to gather the data and have a discussion with one of Mike or one of his consultants. They're going to know. Sometimes when one of our licensees comes to me, I'll go, "Cause that." I know the answer to everything. The answer to everything is either call Mike or call him. And share what you know with them. Okay. And remember when I told you about the people that this morning they had the 2 circles and the 2 daughters? And they were asking me to solve the problem. And I said, I can't solve the problem. You haven't given me enough information. If you'll follow the sales process that I teach you, you'll have all the information you need. And if you don't have it, you can tell Mike, and Mike will say, there's something else I need. Then you can say, I'll call him and ask. But if you do it right the first time, you'll have everything you need to go to Mike or one of his other consultants. And that's the way to build momentum. That's the way to start.